Hello, Internet. The Morgan You Know podcast network presents Balls Brew.
Hello and welcome. I hope you all had yourselves a Merry Christmas. Thank you very much for joining us here the day after Christmas on the Morgan You Know podcasting network for our live broadcast this evening. We'll give you a little bit of sampling of all that we do. We'll touch on sports in Balls and Brew. We'll touch on wrestling in Yeah We Know. We'll do both of those for you this evening. Joining me to talk about all of it is the executive producer of this podcast, the host of the wrestling show, an all-around great guy and a friend of mine for many, many years at this point. He is James Thomas Jamriska. Jimmy, hello.
Rod, it is great to be here as always. Merry Christmas to all, and hopefully we'll have a good night tonight.
There we go. Look at Jimmy going Tiny Tim on us. A man who has played Tiny Tim in many a different community theater production across the decades and across this great USA is our man down there in Bloomington. We're happy that he's joining us after witnessing his Hoosiers lose in person. It's our guy, Chris King. Chris, hello.
I will say my best reviewed Tiny Tim performance was up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho back in 27, but I digress. Yes, nice. We were at the IU game up in South Bend. I am still wearing my IU hat. I'll be damned I'm going to stop doing it no matter what those vicious Irish fans after the game acted. That's the only thing that bugged me, Rod. It was after the game, right?
I was going to defend your honor, Chris. I'm glad that you went there. I was going to defend your honor, okay? Notre Dame fans, some of you guys, I'm understanding it's not all of you, but some of you should frankly be ashamed of yourselves, okay? We're leaving the stadium, and people are just yelling and pointing and screaming at Chris, who's minding his own business, who's doing nothing other than wearing candy striped pants and an IU hat, and people are just, yeah, get out of here, just foaming at the mouth, screaming at him. Chris, who's basically been quiet all game long, was nice to the Notre Dame fans in front of us, was sitting next to a Notre Dame fan who, albeit was quite quiet during the game because I was frozen, all right? I was frozen. I wasn't talking as much as I normally do. I wasn't moving my hands as much as I normally do. I was just sitting there frozen. And I'll update you on the layers and how cold I was in just a second when we talk a little bit more about the game. But, man, Notre Dame fans, come on. You won the game. You dominated IU, and then you still had to be mean and just yelling at somebody for simply being an IU fan. Jimmy, I was disgusted by it. Why do people have to be this way at football games now? You go to Colts games all the time. Why do people have to be this way at football games?
They booed the IU band director because he was leading the Notre Dame band for the national anthem. They booed him.
Another sad moment for Notre Dame fans.
That's funny. But you know what? It happens all the time. That's why I'm not going to wear Bears gear to a Colts game. I just don't want to deal with it. You know, I don't want to have to protect my children from idiot people who I've probably seen 1,000 times and they don't care. So, yeah, people are idiots. I hate that.
Williams, you're a college football guy. You love the fandom associated with college football. Why does this go on? Why do people have to get this way with each other? Why do we have to yell and scream and beat so mad to the other team just because they're the other team? What's the deal here?
I don't know, man. That behavior was supposed to be for Purdue fans. Like, this is why I didn't want Notre Dame and IU to play each other. This is exactly the reason why I want all those fans to get along. But I don't know, man. You're always going to have a few knuckleheads in the stands there. It doesn't really matter where you go. So,
all right, yeah. Well, let me get your opinion on this then. The punt late in the game being called possibly the most cowardly punt of all time. You're a big coaching decision man here. Where do you come down on it?
Yeah, I didn't really have that big an issue with it. And usually, you know me, I'm super aggressive. Everyone needs to go for it on fourth downs. If you watch the game, this is similar to what happened in the Ohio State game. They thought about going for it on a fourth down against Ohio State. And I was like, this offense just has no flow right now. Try your defense is what is keeping you somewhat in the game. Try to pin them down. What the problem is that Indiana's punter is terrible. He had 3 chances to get them inside the 20, and he failed miserably each time. So, and they punted, and the defense stepped up, and they held them, and they actually got 2 late touchdowns. You could say they're garbage touchdowns, whatever, but I didn't think it was that big a deal. Sean McDonough on the telecast, oh my God, he would not shut up about it. He talked about it like 7 different times. So it was not as a horrific punt as what some other people thought. But if you watched IU all year, that defense was was pretty underrated, and that it actually stepped up in the second half. So I don't know. It probably didn't really matter because it was about 10 minutes to go in the game. So to me, it wasn't as big a deal as what the commentators meant out to be.
I just realized while you were talking there, folks that are maybe joining us for the first time, that is our football handicapper, Josh Williams. He's joining us from up here in South Bend area, just a little ways away from me. He's our guy that crunches the numbers. He's the one that knows about football. That's why I went to him on the question of the punt. Chris, I know you were disappointed in the punt. Overall, though, you got to see your Hoosiers in the college football playoff. What's your biggest takeaway now that we are beyond the Hoosier season?
Listen, I do think that for the first time in a very, very long time, Rod, that we as IU football fans have expectations for next year. That's not something that we're really accustomed to, right? So we are still taking this in stride. This is what I'll say. It wasn't so much of the fact that I was bothered by the punt necessarily. It was the lack of aggression I noticed all game long. And that is very anti-IU in 2024. We should have been aggressive from the very first quarter. I thought we were to start off with, but that third drive after the interception, we stopped.
Jimmy, I'm a bit of a Notre Dame fan, not quite a Notre Dame homer, but definitely a bit of a Notre Dame fan. Chris is absolutely an IU homer. You work for IU, as you've said a few times on the podcast, but I look at you as a little more impartial here because you've just been that way your whole entire life. You can always look at a situation the way that it needs to be looked at. Jimmy Jam, I will agree with Chris here. I felt like Cignetti was playing that game almost to not get blown out. I don't feel like he was playing that game to win. Do you think there's any validity to my thought there?
I think there's a lot of validity, and I think that that hurt him. That gut punch, 98-yard touchdown, ended the game. Like, go home. Game is over. You cannot come back from that unless you're going to be another level, and they just didn't get there. They were scared. As Williams said, they can't even punt correctly. Their defense played fine. I mean, if you think about it, it's so weird. Everyone's saying how bad they got blown out. Yes, they lost the game. Like, Notre Dame handled that game, but it wasn't a destruction Ohio State, Tennessee thing, is that they got beat. And I just think that
it wasn't 66 to nothing, was it, Jimmy?
No, and that's fine. I just think that I think that you gotta go all out if you're going to go into Notre Dame and win, and he didn't. And hopefully next year they'll be able to do something different. But yeah, Chris, you're right. There's some expectations next year. We'll see what happens.
Williams, so we saw the first 4 games. We know who's moving on. We know who they're moving on to play. What are your thoughts here as we roll into the bowl game portion of the college football playoffs?
Yeah, I'm surprised at how much Texas is laying against Arizona State. I even had Texas against Clemson, and I was not that impressed with Texas. I feel like they're kind of frauds. I feel like whoever wins that Oregon-Ohio State game is probably going to play for the national championship, if not win it. And the Notre Dame-Georgia game opened up right around Notre Dame -1, Georgia -1, -1.5. So that's about a pick 'em right now. Georgia's got to go with their backup quarterback. So that should be real interesting. And if you're in this time zone, an Eastern time zone, you better take a nap before that game, because if you got to work on January 2nd, that game's not going to get over till after midnight. Because the Rose Bowl has to start at 5 o'clock. We got to get the sun set. And so the Sugar Bowl doesn't start till 8:45. So, that's my biggest gripe about the college football playoffs. Notre Dame's going to play at 8:45 on a Wednesday night. Everybody's got to get up and go to work on Thursday.
Well, listen, let's not take shots at the Rose Bowl, all right? The folks in Pasadena, the pageantry, they understand it. If they need a shot of the sun setting there, I'll take it. It's one of my favorite things. Every time I see it, I hear the voice of Keith Jackson, and then I hear the voice of Brent Musburger. You know what I mean? Like all the college football greats. I just think about them calling games in the Rose Bowl, so I'm all for that. Yeah, I mean, the Sugar Bowl always goes late. That's just another thing you know. So, Notre Dame's going to be in the Sugar Bowl. It's going to go late. Then with Georgia, we'll see. I'm excited for all the folks that are excited for Notre Dame. I'd much rather Notre Dame win than lose. They beat IU. I was quite conflicted during that game. There were some youngsters in their 20s in front of us who I would say were rowdy, but comported themselves pretty well, right? Chris, would you agree with me there that like ultimately they were right on the edge of where it could have went to a bad place, but it never actually went to that bad place? So shout out to those dudes in front of us.
Right. They were good natured. They were friendly to us. They gave us no grief. That's for sure.
And they even offered us some of the brown, as they were calling it, and we and Chris and I were just polite to just go ahead and pass on those. We figured we were going to get sick enough being out there and next to everybody that was sniffling and coughing. We didn't need to drink off of somebody else's brown.
I will say I was actually pretty comfortable. The only thing that got cold on me was my toes for a little bit, but other than that, I was perfectly fine.
I need to do better with footwear, Jimmy. Okay, I had some Jordans on and they looked great, but like frankly, I had 3 pairs of socks and still my feet were getting cold and I couldn't. And then I didn't do right with the layers of pants. Like you could feel my waist up. I'm fine, right? I got 2 stocking caps on. I got 2 hoods on. I got 3 pairs of gloves on. I'm doing fine there. But my legs started getting cold. My feet started getting cold. And when that happens, you're done. You can't do anything.
Yeah, you really need to do the base layer and then another layer and then a third layer with the pants as well. Because I mean, if you're rocking your khakis out there, Rod, that's not good. That
was my second layer, and then my third layer just wasn't thick enough. It just wasn't wind resistant enough. It wasn't thick enough. And then like we didn't sit down very much because quite frankly you couldn't. I mean, they packed them into Notre Dame Stadium there, and we were on bleacher seating anyway, and we didn't sit down much. But man,
it wouldn't have been comfortable anyway.
No, it was still an experience to be there. That place was rocking, right? It would get dark with the lights and stuff. Like it was really pretty rocking. I've never seen that many people in their 20s get excited to sing "Living on a Prayer," but shout out to Bon Jovi. Folks were really pumped up. Chris was even asking me about that one. He's like, "What's going on here?" I was like, "Yeah, well, people love Bon Jovi around here." But that's college football. Let's move on from that. Let's get to our guy Williams breaking down the NFL game because that's what he does best. Regardless of what his record this year might be, the man still knows what he's talking about. He can't, sometimes things go against the knowledge that he puts down. What I would say to you is find me someone else that gives you the length and breadth of knowledge that Williams does, right? We're talking luck scores. We're talking fumble scores. We're talking interception scores, ref stats. He's got all of them for you. No matter which way the luck breaks, Williams is definitely well-read. So let's get into what you got for us this week, Williams. Tell us how it went last week, and then we'll get into this week.
Yeah, so last week we actually went 2-1 against the spread. All right. The shopping around on the Tennessee team total turned out to be valuable. I know you guys were all giving me gruff about that. Gave out under 19.5 team total points on Tennessee on FanDuel. That hit. If you didn't shop around, you only took the 17. Guess what? You pushed. You didn't win. So you got to shop around. Went 2-0 on Saturday, but then on Sunday.
That way.
Yeah, on Sunday we had 3 points of closing line value on the Niners, this Niners team. And what happens? The Niners lose by double digits after getting them at plus 1.5. So I just can't seek out a 3-0 against the spread week, no matter how much closing line value we have in the week in and week out. Just can't get it this year, man.
Jimmy, I just made a Motown joke. What are the chances someone listening to our podcast got the Marvelettes Motown joke that I just made there?
I didn't get it and I was here, Rod.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I gotta get better than that. I gotta get
the Mrs. Morgan, would have got it, Rod. That was for her, right?
There you go. Absolutely. All right. What's the wins league total currently sitting at? Do I have a chance of still falling out of second place, or have I solidified second place? That's really all I want to know about, because we know you're far ahead, and we know that Chris and Jimmy are down in the squalor, in the mud, digging it out to try not to be fourth. Am I solidified in second? That's all I care about.
Yes, this is super interesting here. So I got 78 wins. I had 6 wins last week. Chris got 4 wins. He's up to 49. Rod, you got 4 wins. You're up to 61.
Boom.
And Jimmy, again, only 2 wins. You're at 52. Is this really going to happen? Chris is only 3 wins back from Jimmy for third place. He's got 2 weeks left to catch Jimmy. Oh, my goodness.
Not looking good, Johnny.
Could this happen?
Hey, listen. The Texans are on fire right now, so I'm okay with that. The Browns quarterback situation is terrific. The 49ers have people on their team. The Commanders, Broncos, and Chargers aren't bad, but my other 5 teams are not looking real good right now. I'm in trouble, boys.
Wow, Jimmy Jan. Listen, I know that when we move over to the NBA portion, you were going to be beating your chest like King Kong about how well you do in the NBA wins league. But man, come on, my friend, you can't go last in one and first in the other. Like that.
Oh, I can and I will, son. I can and I will.
Chris, we gave you a bunch of guff. How excited are you right now, knowing that you might not finish in the basement here?
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for weeks, Rod.
Look at you. Look at you. Going LL on us. All right, Williams, let's hit the game right now that you have just a little bit of knowledge on, right? Let's give a little appetizer here on the game that you're going to take quickly, and then we'll move on to the more main courses. So we've got Miami versus the stinky Cleveland Browns. You can't have many thoughts on Dorian Thompson-Robinson because I don't even think the Cleveland Browns have many thoughts on Dorian Thompson-Robinson. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I got help from a different source on this one this week, and they basically told me to not overthink it, Rod. Don't overthink it. You haven't had a good year, so just don't overthink it. And guess what, Rod? You read my mind. Dorian Thompson-Robinson stinks. He absolutely stinks. And yes, I know I hate laying points in the NFL, especially with a warm weather team going to a cold weather climate. But guess what, boys? Cleveland, it's going to be a balmy 55 on Sunday in Cleveland. And so I don't think it's going to affect the Dolphins that much. The Dolphins still might be in the playoff race. Give me Miami -6.5. That's across the board here. Anything under 7 with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think is value. This dude is just not very good. And the Dolphins in 6 out of the last 7 games have allowed less than 20 points. I think 5 out of the last 7 or 6 out of the last 7 has allowed 20 points or less. And then I think in 6 of the last 7, they've got at least 3 sacks. And this guy's going to get sacked. So the Dolphins defense playing a little bit better lately. And so, yeah, why not? Why not? Let's take Miami, Mike McDaniel, -6.5 in Cleveland.
The DJ spinning the records, as Cousin Sal and Bill Simmons would like to say there about Mike McDaniel. Chris, you were offended at the beginning of the year that Jimmy was willing to back the Browns as much as he was. You've been laughing at the Browns all year long. You have to be offended again at the Browns because they are flat out tanking. Jameis Winston might possibly win them some football games, and they are sitting him down to play Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You have to be angry at those Browns over in Cleveland.
I mean, Rod, I've been angry with Cleveland since they kicked their first – the first quarterback to win them a playoff game in this millennia. They kick him to the curb, send him on his way, and they bring in some schmo, some dude that does nothing but get in trouble and get hurt and can't play anymore, and pay him an ungodly guaranteed contract. What does Baker do? He goes other places and wins, Rod. Yeah, and the Cleveland Browns continue to just lose and shite all over themselves year after year after year. They almost had me, Rod. Baker takes him to a playoff game. I'm like, okay, Cleveland, you deserve this. This is good for your city. You're doing things the right way. And what do they do, Rod? The same thing Cleveland always does.
Nice. I love that you went and gave Baker some love there. I more expected the shite down their leg portion of your take there, but I appreciate that you went and gave our guy Baker a little pat on the back. I know he appreciated it. Things not looking up for the Buccaneers. Really needed the win out of them last week.
And they're keeping Watson around. What are they doing?
Well, he's costing Jimmy Haslam a lot of money. So, what are you going to do, right? Owners make decisions. We know that as Colts fans. Williams and Jimmy know that definitely as Bear fans. So let's talk the Broncos at the Bengals, because this is a big game as relating to our Indianapolis Colts. And I will look into my Colts crystal ball. All right. Those of you that are checking with us live right now, those are going to be listening to this episode later. My track record speaks for itself when having a main line to what will go on with the Indianapolis Colts. I will predict that exactly for you here soon. But first, Williams is going to handicap Broncos Bengals.
Yeah, this may not be good news for your Colts fandom here, but I'm going to take Denver plus 3.5, -120 on DK. And listen, Denver can still lose this game, and the Colts can still get in. I mean, Colts obviously need Denver to lose, but if you go strictly by DVOA here, Denver is 9th, Cincy is 17th. And weighted DVOA the last 6 weeks, Denver is 6th, Cincy is 13th. And Burrow's going to put up points. We know that. However, if you look back, Cleveland has given Cincy and Burrow problems in the past. And what does Cleveland do? They play a ton of man coverage. Even last week, the Browns, more so DTR, were begging for Cincy to put them away, and Cincy could not do it. This was a game where you had to be watching it to get the full effect, because you might say, wait, Williams, Cincy won that game 24-6. The Bengals dominated that game. If you watch that game, you know that couldn't be further from the truth. And what has to worry you if you're a Bengals fan was that DTR was horrific at quarterback for Cleveland, and you couldn't put them away. So why do I bring up Cleveland in regards to the Broncos? It's because Denver plays man coverage at the highest rate in the league. And if you didn't notice, they don't have DTR as their quarterback. Burrow versus zone coverage this season, second highest EPA per dropback. Burrow versus man coverage this season, middle of the pack EPA per dropback. And on the other side, Cincy's pass D ranks 27th in the league. Check this out. Bo Nix has faced 7 pass defenses that are below average this season. Not only has he not lost against the spread versus them, he hasn't lost straight up versus them. He's 7-0. He's averaging 29 points per game. And when he faces above average passing defenses, Nick's straight up record is only 2-6. And remember, this is long rest for Denver. They played last Thursday night. This is short rest for Cincy because this game is on a Saturday. And also, if Mills is out on the interior of that O-line for Cincy, Cincy's going to be in trouble. And when Mills went out last week versus Cleveland, that O-line was a disaster. And by the way, this Cincy front office cannot go into next season with Cochran and Ford as their starting offensive tackles. Burrow won't make it through the season. Those tackles are so bad. Come on, Cincy. You better beef up that O-line in the free agency in the draft. Enough is enough with that trash O-line. Give me Denver plus 3.5. This is down to 3 on a couple other different books. So make sure if you like Denver, get plus 3.5, minus 120 on DK.
First off, boo you. First off. Second off, you are so right. I don't know how many people have come up to me and said, Rod, what in the world is Cincinnati going to do about Cochran and Ford? So I'm glad that you are getting ahead of that big time story that is on everyone's lips out there when they are talking NFL football.
I thought so.
All right. But that's absolutely not going to happen. Joey Burr needs this game. The Bengals are winning this game because this is not the game that Denver is going to win to guarantee them the playoffs, okay? The game that Denver is going to win to guarantee them the playoffs will come later. Jimmy, I'm going to allow you to retort to Williams still before I get to my prediction.
I just don't see it, Williams. I think the Bengals have to win all their final games to try to get in the playoffs. It's kind of what they do. So I believe that the Bengals will win against Denver. I just see your boy Bo throwing 3 interceptions again, and something's going to happen. Go crazy in there. So the good news is Denver's probably going to win.
Williams,
I think Cincy's going to win this one. I like Cincy in this.
We'll say Denver can still. Or Cincy can still win this game by 1, 2, or 3 points, and Denver cover.
Okay,
so,
all right. We'd love for you to be 3-0. We understand that you're chasing 3-0. Chris, he's coming after you.
Trying to help you, Williams.
Your Bengals. He's coming after your Bengals. Also, sort of coming after your Colts here with this pick because we definitely need the Broncos to lose this game. So, what are your thoughts?
Excuse me. I know the Broncos beat up the Colts just a couple weeks ago. All right. I just don't know if Denver is a good team. They have their best victory this season is either Tampa Bay or Atlanta, however you rank those two teams. That's their best win. They haven't beat any other kind of competition.
Or losing to the Chiefs on a doink, I suppose. Could be considered their best win.
No, you can't call that a win because they still lost.
It was the block field goal, whatever it was. They almost beat the Chiefs on the block field goal. Either way,
almost only counts on horseshoes and hand grenades, Rod, and Denver's got neither one.
It counts a lot in college football, according to the discourse after the games, but we avoided all that.
Yeah, I don't know, but listen, Williams is right. As long as Cincinnati gets this win, I don't care if it's by 1 point, a half a point, or 18. Let's just get it done, Cincinnati.
There we go. That's exactly what's going to happen here, folks, okay? The Colts are going to win their game this week. The Broncos are going to lose their game. The Bengals and the Colts will roll into the last week with the Broncos, awaiting what will happen. And a old friend, old nemesis, maybe, if you will. I'll take you Colt fans back a little ways. Remember when we were sold a bill of goods that Carson Wentz was going to be the savior for the Colts? He was going to be the solution at quarterback. Frank Reich was going to be able to talk to him. We were going to settle him down, and he was going to be fine in Indy. Boy, how did that work out when he absolutely, completely coughed away a game against the Jaguars and choked us away from the playoffs? Jim Irsay came down into the locker room, as legend has it, and said, that man will never quarterback my team again. Colts had to jettison Wentz out, right? He's been awash in the league, figuring out what is he going to do. He lands in Kansas City as the backup. They're absolutely going to sit Patrick Mahomes week 18, and he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Chiefs and lose to the Broncos, guaranteeing that the Colts do not make the playoffs, getting revenge against his old friends in Indianapolis. Damn you, Carson Wentz, and damn me for knowing that that's exactly what's going to happen in the Colts. Jimmy, your thoughts?
I love it because it's going to, and you know it's going to happen. I'm all for anarchy. Let's continue with that. Yes, Rod, you're correct.
Don't the Colts have a backdoor way into the playoffs, even if Denver ends up beating Kansas City? If the Chargers continue to charger these last 2 weeks, don't we get instead of Los Angeles Chargers?
I don't know. Williams, we'd have to go to you on that one.
Yeah, but I mean, the Chargers have the Patriots and the Raiders, so
that is a West Coast team traveling to the East Coast on an early time slot. All right, so
two teams who do not want to win.
The Patriots
the Raiders already messed up.
The Patriots looked good last week. All right, it's not a pushover.
You are right. They went from 2 to 3.
I'll tell you what though, I don't think you know how bad Mahomes always wants to play in the preseason. They already wrapped up the 1 seed. They already have that bye. I don't think Mahomes is sitting week 18. I think he's starting that game.
Williams, man, all you do is just come in and just rain on my takes, dude.
No,
I just have these great, wonderful takes that are going to be wonderful little social media things, and you just come in and rain on it. You know what's great about that? Jimmy can cut off the part where you come in and rain on my take, and we can just have my take be out there in the ether.
No, that is going to be in the ether. Just so you know, your rant just then.
I'm just saying, Rod, you could still be right. Wentz could play the second half. All I'm saying is
right. Of course I could still be right. I'm always right. People listen to this podcast for that reason. Come on.
All I'm saying is that I think Mahomes is starting that game.
There we go. All right, Mahomes might start that game. He does love to start. He's a terrible interview. That's my suggestion to everyone that covers the NFL. Stop interviewing Patrick Mahomes. Stop it. There's no reason to ask Patrick Mahomes a question. He's not going to give you a decent answer, and then his voice is just still going to sound like a Muppet. I'm sorry. Just stop interviewing Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't go well. Let his play on the field speak for him. Moving on to a game that is going to be played on the field that will speak a lot to who will be a high seed in the NFC. That is the Packers versus the Vikings. Williams, I got to give you props here. You told the people that Sam Darnold might just be pretty darn good for these Minnesota Vikings. You've always talked about how good of a coach O'Connell is. You've always talked about their D coordinator. I got to give you props here, man. You kind of saw this Minnesota thing coming. I don't think to this level, but you saw it coming a little bit.
I know, and now this pains me. This pains me as a Bears fan because I'm taking the Packers +1, -115 on DK. And ever since these two teams played last, the DVOA rankings are the Vikings 6th. I don't think many people would be surprised with that, but the Packers are 3rd. In the weighted DVOA over the last 6 weeks, Green Bay is ranked higher than Minnesota on offense, defense, and wait for it, special teams. If you followed this pod in the last handful of years, you know that Green Bay has struggled mightily in the special teams department. Not so much this year.
I know they even brought in the pit boss, Richie Bisaccia, and they still struggle with special teams. What happened there?
Yes. And so not all wins are created equal. I know Chris probably disagrees with that, but because Minnesota is on an 8-game winning streak, how can they be behind Green Bay in all 3 categories? Well, let's take a look at this 8-game winning streak. They beat the Colts. They won at Jacksonville by 5. At Tennessee, they beat the Bears in overtime. They beat Zona. They were down 19-6 late in the third quarter in that game, came back to win by 1. Versus Atlanta and the dead arm of Kirk Cousins, that game was tied in the fourth quarter. They beat the broken Bears for a second time. And then at Seattle last week, where it took a personal foul face mask on what would have been a 3rd and 18 with 4 minutes left outside of field goal range to win that game. So this game reminds me so much of last year's Game of the Year. Remember when I proclaimed Game of the Year status, I told everyone, make this a suitcase bet. You guys remember, it was San Fran at Philly after the Eagles were on a long winning streak. The Niners were 2.5-point favorites, and Joe Public lost their mind. They're like, there's no way the Niners can be favored in Philly. And I was like, just wait for it. Just wait. San Fran's going to beat these guys. They're going to beat them by double digits. Now, I'm not as strong with this game, but I think this Minnesota team, their record is a little bit better than what they actually are. I think Flores has done a great job kind of masking that secondary. I don't think that secondary is that good. Green Bay took it easy on the Saints, winning 34-0 on Monday night, and they got some rest. I think Green Bay is ready for revenge here against Minnesota. As much as I hate to say it, give me Green Bay +1, -115 on DK.
You sounded like that guy. You sounded like that guy from Days of Confused. We took it easy on you. You sounded like that guy from Days of Confused there when you talked about the Packers over the Saints. Listen, people told us at the beginning of the year that this Packers team was going to be good, right? We all heard that if their young receivers who seemed like explosive athletes could come together, and if Jordan Love was the guy that we saw in spurts, this team was going to be good. And we've seen it the last couple of weeks, but unfortunately, they happen to be in the same division as the Vikings and as the Lions, right? So it's like, they're not necessarily in a position to win the division. They're definitely going to be in the playoffs and they can make some noise. But I continue to think about Minnesota, what I said about Pittsburgh. And shout out to my Yinzers, all right? I know they're all crying in their beer there in Pittsburgh after 2 big losses, but just know I still believe, okay? I still believe. I will not turn my back on you, Pittsburgh. I will forever love your terrible black and yellow pirate uniforms. I will forever love Terry Bradshaw. All right. I had a Mean Joe Green poster on my wall as a kid. Everybody thought it was so weird that I was a kid from the 80s in Indiana who had a Mean Joe Green poster, but I had it anyway because I pull for Pittsburgh. So I know it's down for them there, and it's a little bit down in Green Bay, but things are going to be all right. I want to see good football, and this is a good football game. So, Williams, thank you for breaking down at least one game that will involve good football. Speaking of something else you told me about before the podcast, Mr. Williams, you said you had a little tease. You teased me and Jimmy and Chris with a stat that is unlike anything you have seen in years. 8 years, I believe you said. What do you have for us?
Yeah, it's not really a stat. It's more so a play. So I'll lead this in with this. So in 2017, we had McVay take the Rams head coaching job. We had Shanahan take the Niners head coaching job the same year. You have Andy Reid as a head coach. You got Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator for the Chargers this year. He did a good job with the Ravens when he was with the OC there. Speaking of the Ravens, Todd Monken has done a great job with them this year, along with Joe Brady and Buffalo. All these guys are great. But I believe what we have seen this year in Detroit tops them all. It started back versus Arizona this season, where we saw the best hook and ladder in a game since Billy Bob saved the day in Varsity Blues back in 1998. Next, you had the double reverse pass that resulted in an offensive lineman receiving touchdown for the Lions. Have never seen that before in a game. And finally, against his hopeful future employer in the Bears this last week, he pulled out the best play yet. The
most disrespectful play call ever, according to some.
The stumble bum. The stumble bum might have made him, I don't know, 4 or 5 more million next year, hopefully when the Bears sign him. Let me tell you why the stumble bum was not only one of the coolest plays of the year, it was the most detailed play of the year. It wasn't because Jahmyr Gibbs rolled over to start the play. It wasn't because Jared Goff fake stumbled over his offensive lineman's feet after getting a snap. It wasn't even the fact that Ben Johnson got the idea for this play while watching tape of the Packers when he saw Jordan Love actually stumble out of the pocket. He saw that froze the D for just enough time for Love to throw a touchdown pass. It was none of that. The attention to detail is that he had the bench players at the start of this play yell, ball, 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 when Goff fake lateraled it to Gibbs. That froze the Bears defense. Goff turns around, hits Laporta, fade in the corner of the end zone. That is some detail-oriented play calling. You love to see it. You love to see it.
Williams, I'll even back you up. I heard a story that Ben Johnson went to Jared Goff in practice a few days before and asked him if he thought he could fumble on purpose. And Jared Goff kind of looked at him and was like, I don't know. And then he went back to the drawing board.
Yeah, because Jordan Love almost did fumble in that game that he saw that where he got that idea. So, yeah, if you're the Bears, your first, second, and third choice should be Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson.
Not Pete Carroll?
Get out of here with these retread coaches. I think Vrabel's fine, but Pete Carroll, get out of here with that. I do not want that. You got to get
already
Ben
had Pete Carroll, and his name was John Fox. You guys have already been there and done that.
You guys are going to get Mike McCarthy How are you going to like that?
Oh,
He's a free
God,
agent. How
God.
about that take that somebody dropped the other day? Maybe Mike McCarthy doesn't want to come back to your Cowboys, Chris. How about that take?
I mean, would you?
Probably not. I don't know. Jerry Jones pays pretty well. He let Jason Garrett run that team for 9 years. You know what I mean? Like, he's let McCarthy stick around for a couple of years too long.
But the main point to the whole story to me is
you
that
love Ben Johnson. Yes, anyone that's listened to this podcast for years knows.
I don't think he's just the best offensive coordinator this year. I think he's the best offensive coordinator in the last 8 years. He's already at Shanahan and McVay and Andy Reid level. You have to go out and get this guy.
You need to hope that the Lions win the Super Bowl. I'm telling you now, because I'm starting to hear this take percolate around, and this guy already showed himself to be choosy. If the Lions don't win the Super Bowl, I could totally see him just sitting out one more year and saying, you know what, none of these positions are great either. I walked away from Washington and could have had Jaden Daniels. So you better hope the Lions win the Super Bowl if you want Ben Johnson to land in Chicago. That's all I got to say.
I got to say, Dan Campbell looks like the type of coach that you may not want to walk up to and be like, I quit either. That's got to be a difficult conversation to have.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
What if he's just like, no, you're not going?
That is a good one to end on right there. Mr. Williams, thank you for joining us this day after Christmas and still grinding out the numbers over the holiday season. We only have a little more time with you here, my friend. The playoffs are just around the corner. Then we'll get a little college basketball talk from you, and then you will have a little time off while Chris and Jimmy and I will continue to grind away about one of our favorite sports, the National Basketball Association.
Go Irish.
We'll get there.
Welcome to the Fast Break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Jimmy, Rod, and Chris are here. Gentlemen, we've got a lot of news to talk about, especially the fact that I am still the reigning, defending Wins League champion. As bad as I am, gentlemen, in the NFL, I am that good in the NBA. I didn't even need to put any of my wins in from actually I had to put 4 wins in from this last time. 164 wins for Jimmy, 146 wins for Rod, and Chris is 129 wins. Will he beat himself? Will Chris get more wins in the NBA than he did in the NFL? We will see if that happens.
I mean,
sure.
you keep talking about how bad you are in the NFL picks, Jimmy, but like you're still not in last place. Like I still have and am suffering in last place in both leagues. It's not a fun time for me.
I'm counting on the Bears and Browns to win games. Anyway, one thing I am counting on is I am counting on the Dallas Mavericks to have a lot of wins coming up soon. That doesn't look very good with Luka Doncic maybe being out there for a little bit, Rod.
Yeah, not happy for Mavericks fans, not happy for Luka fantasy owners, a.k.a. myself. I kind of have a squad that is built around him getting 80 to 120 almost every time he plays. So this will be I'm gonna need a lot out of that the 6th man of the year, Peyton Pritchard, who is probably going to be seeing extra time in my fantasy lineup. That's not going to help the Mavericks though. So you're probably going to see a little Kyrie Irving really doing a lot of dribbling. Spencer Dinwiddie has played fair to decent so far this year for the Mavericks, as well as Quentin Grimes. So you're going to see a little more time out of those guys. And I think the Mavericks are deep enough that they'll probably stick around and not fall to a point where it'll hurt them ultimately in playoff seeding. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Luka's going to pay off on MVP again, Jimmy. What was this, the 3rd straight year that he came into the season as the Vegas favorite for MVP, and he's probably not going to hit the wins game threshold. But sneaky thing, like 85% of the league doesn't seem like they're going to hit the games threshold at this point.
Yeah, Chris, are you going to be intrigued when, I don't know, let's see. DeMar DeRozan wins MVP this year because he's on your Kings, and he's the only one that's played as many games as you need to?
I mean, I've had an issue with this for a while, right? We have talked about this exact issue, and I have railed against load management, whether it's basketball, starting pitching in baseball, whatever it may be. We are talking about people playing a game 3 or 4 nights a week at most, and they're getting overworked. I'm sorry, that's hard for me to feel sorry for. If you can't play 82 games, then you don't get the chance to actually get the awards that will make you a whole lot more money.
Have you ever traveled for work, Chris?
Yes, a lot.
A lot, right? And that does wear on you a lot, right? So it's not playing 3 games a week.
These are young people. You're not 45 doing this. You're 25 doing this, all right? I mean, listen, he's the exception, not the rule. We know that. But, like, that's the thing. Like, I did all that traveling when I was in my 20s and early 30s. Like, right? It's not difficult. It's not hard. And I guarantee you I was doing more labor than what they do on a daily basis.
No question. Rod, give me a little chat about your Boston Celtics here. Gone up, gone down. Where are we right now?
Here's the thing with the Celtics, right? Like, I talked a little bit about this in a different way on a pod earlier this year, right? The Celtics will rise and fall with the amount of 3-pointers that they shoot, right? I mean, it just is. They don't work for a lot of drives to the basket. They don't get a lot of free throws. They don't shoot a lot of mid-range jumpers. So if there's a night where the Celtics aren't hitting 3-pointers, it's just going to be rough for them to ultimately win. Now, because they still hit so many 3-pointers, you're not going to see them blown out many times, which is what we've seen recently, right? The 4-point loss to the Sixers on Christmas Day, another recent heartbreaker, right? The Celtics are going to be in every game, right? Because their floor is just so much higher than everybody else's floor in the league. But they just don't have a very diverse offense, Jimmy. So it's always Jason Tatum, let me step back for a 3. Jaylen Brown, let me step back for a 3. Let me swing it over here to Derek White to take a 3. Let Porzingis step behind the line and shoot a 3, right? Drew Holiday's in the corner. He's taking a 3. Hell, Al Horford's shooting 3s, and Pritchard and Hauser. It's just they don't have any kind of offense if the 3 isn't going down, and every once in a while you're going to lose when that's the case.
So you've been mentioning these, step back, take a 3, step back, take a 3, take a 3, take a 3, take a 3. That's been a lot of talk over the past couple weeks about people not really watching the NBA as much because of too many 3s. They had record numbers on Christmas Day, 5 million people average watching per game. NFL had 26 million on Netflix. But do you see this as a time where people are going to start watching the NBA more, Rod? Or are we just going to continue hearing this, no one's watching the NBA?
We're going to continue hearing that no one's watching the NBA, but I wonder if what happened was there was enough people out there that got the hair on the back of their neck stood up a little bit like I did when I had my Rod Damnation railing against people like Chris on this very podcast talking about the problems that the NBA has. Like, heck, he did it at the beginning of this episode talking about guys don't play enough, right? So I think enough people out there were NBA fans. They knew the NFL was coming for Christmas Day. They knew that the NFL was going to dominate their numbers no matter what they did. But I think there was a lot of people that said to themselves, you know what? I'm going to show some support to the NBA. And I think there's some people that went out there and tuned into NBA games to try to make sure they had a pretty good number. And they did, right? None of us were foolish enough to think that the NBA was even going to draw half of what the NFL did on Netflix, right? Let alone the fact that Netflix is the easiest thing for people to access. It was a huge deal because this was the first ever game on Netflix. So, I mean, all of that alone was going to make people tune in. Not to mention it was the NFL, the only behemoth, only monoculture left in this country. So 26 million, that's great. But I'm happy that the NBA got 5, right, on average, because if not, you could have seen 28, 29 for the NFL, and that's great. But here's the thing, Jimmy. People have talked about it. Move away from Christmas Day then. If Roger Goodell and the pigs in the NFL want to take Christmas Day, guess what happened on Christmas Eve, Jimmy? Basically nothing. So why not Christmas Eve is the NBA's day?
Hey, Chris, if you're the NFL, just take over Christmas Eve too, right?
I mean, if I'm the NFL and it's a day close enough to the weekend, I'm going to have games on it at this point, right?
If it's basically anywhere between Thursday and Tuesday, so for you, unless it's Christmas Day, which it happened to be this time. One thing I do want to talk about before I think Rod's getting a little angry right now, but one thing I do want to talk about is Jimmy Butler, huge name that we've talked about in trade possibilities. Apparently, he is not being traded this year, according to Pat Riley. Chris, thoughts on that?
I mean. So it's Pat Riley, and Rod kind of mentioned this a little bit in the pregame chat. I know I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder, Rod, but like Riley does usually tend to be a straight shooter. But in the NBA, if a GM or an owner says that we have full support or putting all of our support behind this guy, we're not going to trade this guy, that is usually a perfect sign of he's not going to be there very much longer.
Yeah, I believe the quote was, therefore, we will make it clear we are not trading Jimmy Butler. So he didn't put it, they're just not trading him. Rod, so if the Spurs come to Pat Riley tomorrow and say, we'll give you Victor Wembanyama for Jimmy Butler, no, not happening, correct?
That's apparently what Pat Riley would have us believe, right? And I, like you, think that no one is untouchable. Pat Riley is a smart guy who makes smart moves. Sometimes he's got some bad moves on his record too, but you be an NBA executive for as long as he have, you're gonna bat. Remember, I'm afraid of Pat Riley. All right, he's got too many NBA championship rings. Anybody that slicks their hair back like that and wears suits all the time is somebody to be feared. I'm not messing with Pat Riley. But Wembanyama is not being traded. But Jimmy, I believe you had possibly the loophole for Mr. Riley to come out looking like a rose on this and say, well, no, I didn't lie to you. Because what did he say? Jimmy Butler's not being traded this year?
Yeah, he actually just say we're not trading Jimmy Butler, period, unfortunately. I thought he said this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he says he's not trading Jimmy Butler at all. So
I don't believe him.
Yeah, I don't either. I think if the right deal comes around, Pat Riley's going to do what's best for the team. But he basically just said it's been too much of a distraction for the team and they can't do that. So there is that. And now
What's funny about that, Jimmy, last thing we'll make is Pat Riley's not talking to just you and I or other teams. He's basically talking to Jimmy Butler there because Jimmy Butler was dyeing his hair colors of other teams and certainly playing into it. So Pat Riley was talking to Jimmy Butler and not even other GMs.
All right, let's try this once again, the Rodnam Nation.
We have to do something about this situation. The momentum is dying.
I don't understand no more distractions.
But I do believe we should all follow one path in life.
Hubris and ego and pride. Sorry, all that was a complete lie. Here's what I'm angry about, all right? I'm not going to rail against players not playing. I'm not going to rail against ratings. I'm not going to rail against too many three-pointers and nobody plays defense because, shocker, quick little thing on the defense, players are just so much better these days, all right? You just have guys 1 through 8 that are just absolutely physical, athletic specimens who go at it all year round. It's just tougher and tougher to stop these guys. So people don't play defense. It's just harder to play good defense. Huge difference there. But the one thing that can and should be cleared up about the NBA game is these replay reviews. Now, I'm not going to go scorch the earth and say get rid of them the way Chris might. But what I am going to say is there's no stinking reason they should take as long as they take. There just isn't. I'm sorry. If the guys doing the game as the play-by-play in color can get their booth to dial them up a replay that gives them the view they need to see, and they can disseminate to the people within 15 to 20 seconds what the right call is, why in the world is it taking officials 2 minutes every time? I don't mind that they get on the microphone and then explain it. I don't even mind if they get wordy when they explain it. I think that's a little bit of added entertainment. I love a promo in wrestling, but we've got to cut down the amount of time that they stand there at the table and look at the screen. Jimmy, there's got to be something done. It takes too stinking long. I'm not saying get rid of it, but we've got to take some of the time away.
Yeah, I kind of like the eye in the sky, Chris, in the NFL, which, by the way, we still need to talk about that sometime on Balls and Brew, like when they can use that, when they can't. There should be just an eye in the sky that says, hey, by the way, that wasn't a foul. I mean, that would take so many minutes off the end of games, Chris.
Well, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know the inner workings of how those refs get what visual on that screen and what order, and whose cameras are we seeing on the TV versus what they're seeing. Are we seeing just the production crew, or are we seeing NBA TV? They only get the NBA cameras. I don't know that type of stuff. So if they're waiting on a TV camera from their production truck, they may have to tag it, set it up, send it to the NBA, then relay it down back to that court on their screen. I don't know how that's going to work or how that does. Maybe they have to streamline that process because it takes way too long. All right, so Cleveland, King, best record in the NBA, lost one game at home, right?
Back in the King.
Right, Cleveland, right? Lost 4 games all season. That's pretty damn good.
Wow, your Bucks aren't there anymore, huh?
Well, hey, we are past the cup, right?
Cup-centric is over. Yeah.
Yeah, this is back to regular season. So we got OKC as the queen. All right, 5 losses, second best record in the league, leading the West out there. All right, so there's no question there. The real issue is whether or not Rod can convince me to keep the Celtics as the prince and not put a team that's playing better like the Knicks or the Rockets right now. Both teams are probably playing better than the Celtics this week. Tell me why I shouldn't put them as a prince instead of the Celtics.
No, listen, go ahead. Go ahead. Crown the Knicks, crown the Rockets. Go ahead. Count out the Celtics. Give them even more bulletin board material. Go right ahead. It's fine. You're right. They're not one of the top 3 teams in the league, man. The league has passed the Celtics by. They're bad.
I mean, it's a what have you done for me lately? And the Celtics lost lately, so I'm going to have to give it to the Rockets. They're the prince.
You love Dylan Brooks.
And we have almost completed the mausoleum of ineptitude, right?
Whoa. I like that.
All right. We thought the original owners and dwellers were going to be the Wizards, and they still might be, all right? But I got to be honest because the Pelicans are making a real strong case, all right? Because they're not trying to be – they weren't trying to be bad at the beginning of the season, and they just are. 5 wins, all right? You got to do better than 5 wins, New Orleans. You're this week's jester. You're not quite in the mausoleum of ineptitude, but you're trying to make a case for it. That's for sure.
Well, I think the good news is Zion Williamson is back to maybe practicing. He might be back in a week or 2 or 3 or 4.
Listen, if you want a superstar that is all what he may be and looks phenomenal in street clothes on your bench, then Zion Williamson's your guy. But if you want somebody that can actually play and provide stats and do some possible winning for your team, I don't necessarily know that you want Zion or, frankly, any of the combination that New Orleans has put together down there, Jim, because it just hasn't really worked for them. They've had this nucleus for 3 or 4 years, and it just hasn't worked.
And with that, you've been listening to The Fast Break on the Morgan Notes Podcasting Network.